Well, it certainly feels as though it's been much more than a weekend since I saw you last squeeze in a big winter storm in the middle of everything, and it kind of slows things down to a crawl. Well, we'll talk about conditions outside. If you've not been on roads today, good job. If you've had to be out, you understand what it's been like. Nevertheless, we'll take you out, let you see what crews have been working on all day to try to keep up, admittedly not being able to keep up with the snow as it's been coming down at a monstrous pace, 1 to 2 inches of snow an hour. Things are starting to lessen for the time being. If you're catching the early show, we're going to pick up a little additional snowfall over the course of the night. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk about a local state of emergency plan, about a shelter that has been established, a warming shelter should you need those services. And we'll talk about how the weather is affecting a lot of things, and we'll also talk about how it's affecting high school basketball. The end of the regular season pretty much just wiped off the schedule for maybe all schools. And on the McGoffin County level, we'll talk about that as well as we'll talk about the district tournament, which is set to start next Monday. And then we'll also get a little glimpse into a situation that developed between the McGoffin County Hornets and Breathitt County this past Friday night, where Coach Castle and his team left after being 9 points behind just a few moments into the start of the game. We'll kind of tell you what transpired, talk to the school official. It's all weather-related pretty much to some degree, with the exception of that portion of the interview, but we'll work in some weather-related information, as you heard, with high school sports in just a few moments. Let's just get to a couple of other things before we get to all of that. A state of emergency has been called on the state and local level. In fact, I know that Pike, Lawrence, Perry, and a long list, significant list, I should say, of other counties have joined and chimed in on that note as well, calling or designating their own local states of emergency, as has McGoffin County. You may have received that Code Red call earlier. If you haven't signed up to Code Red, the McGoffin County Judge Executive Charles Hardin recommends calling their offices as soon as they're open and let them get you signed up. It's a great service to let you know of any situations, such as with the declaration of a state of emergency today or any other type of situation. We'll turn now to Judge Hardin, who I caught up with in his medical office earlier today, which was closed like most everything else in most every county in eastern Kentucky. The judge tells us about that state of emergency and offers a few words of advice. What you guys have done in response to the weather?
Well, yesterday we met with the city, the county. We got all of our ducks in a row. Met emergency management, the road crew, law enforcement, rescue squad, and we started this morning working 12-hour shifts with the road crew. We'll have somebody out 24 hours a day. Been on our Code Red, getting the message out to people to stay home. As you were mentioning a minute ago, it's been about 20-something years since we had weather like this, and that's the last time I was really uncomfortable driving to the hospital. It was really bad coming back, and if that road's bad in McGoffin County, then it's bad everywhere.
Provisions for anybody who, not just the snow, but the cold's going to be a big concern?
The city fire department, Paul Howard and the mayor have agreed to have a warming station. We haven't opened a shelter yet. We will do that if we need to. Right now we're taking it hour by hour and seeing what we need to do.
All county services closed for further notice, or are we going to?
All counties service is going to be closed at least for the next couple of days. I do not want people out on the roads. As I said in my message, it's a good time for accidents, bad time to get people to respond to you quickly. People can freeze to death out there. The other thing is we need people like the emergency management people, rescue squad or fire departments, police. We need them responding to emergencies created by the weather, not created by people being out when they shouldn't be.
Lastly, this serves as another good reminder to take advantage of the one call.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great way to get our message out. And McGoffin Countyans are really good about checking on their neighbors. I encourage you to check on your neighbors. If you have trouble, call 911. Call me, 496-6171. Call Mike at 496-6172. Or take advantage of your volunteer fire departments. They're one of the greatest assets we have.
And a state of emergency not just on a local level. In lieu of the winter storm and the bitter cold across the Commonwealth, Governor Beshear also declared a statewide emergency to allow all those local officials in counties and municipalities immediate access to state resources to assist with safety and recovery efforts. In a few words, the governor says this storm system is still dumping snow across much of the state, and temperatures are forecast to drop further. Some areas may see an accumulation of up to 16 inches, making it one of the worst storms in recent memory. memory, and by declaring a state of emergency, he says now for the entire state they can deploy any needed state assistance, including National Guard troops, if necessary, without delay. And of course, what does all of that snow really look like and feel like outside if you've managed to stay indoors today? And job nicely done. If you've been one of the individuals who still had to go into work today, emergencies may have come up or otherwise, well, you will know how treacherous it's been to travel. I'll take you out and about when we come back after these words and let you see just what roads were like as of close to airtime this afternoon to give you a good idea just how important it is for everyone to try to stay inside.
To get high-speed internet on their state-of-the-art fiber optic network for all of your home and business solutions, or to watch TV without a contract on over 200 digital channels with superb quality, or stay connected with family and friends with 24/7 telephone service you can always depend on, contact Foothills Broadband today. Or just click on their link to the right to find out how they're working to provide the latest in communications at affordable prices with exceptional service at Foothills Broadband.
Certainly a lot of snow-covered ground to cover this evening. If you've been outside, you have a pretty good understanding, and even if you have, you may still not be aware of all that's been going on and not going on. So as we take a look as to what road conditions were like and conditions outside, as well as just how much snow we had piled up here at the newsroom, I'll also fill you in regards to the State Highway Department's efforts to keep roads as clear as possible. We'll also have some information in regards to some businesses and how things have been going in that nature, services that you may need, and also what you might be able to find in lieu of some emergency. So for now, we'll step outside and just see what the snowfall is accumulating to at this hour, with more expected to come. I know what to do is let's just walk outside and take a look. Nope, nobody else here but me, and see what we've got. It is still coming down, just a little fine snow, and we're going to see that continue. And there we are. We're really right at 10 inches. That looks just like it's a little bit low, but the way I've got the stick leaning, I feel comfortable saying we're at 10 inches and still falling. They're still giving us a chance of 2 to 4 more. And to be honest with you, as we take a look at radar in just a bit, and given the way that things have gone today, it's certainly possible. Things are quiet out on a big snow. You ever notice that? It's nice.
So this is all obviously unedited and unscripted, but just real. And there you can see one of several trucks which were out on roads today. This was just before, this was one of the earlier shots, so it wasn't just before the 6 o'clock hour, but it was around the 4 o'clock hour, so I think would feel safe to say. I'm going to be honest with you, tomorrow I'm hoping to get out and maybe play in it. It'd be nice to take the kids sleigh riding. They have never, my daughter is 15, she has never seen a snow this big. Now, that's something. And, of course, my son hasn't either, so maybe I'll squeeze out a little time to get out and play in it tomorrow and maybe take some nice pictures. With the snow coming down at the pace it has been today, that's not something you could do very easily. Getting out a camera and taking pictures, well, visibility was so low for one, and then, of course, camera equipment, even though it's frozen, doesn't work well when it gets wet eventually. And you can see crews with the State Highway Department have been out in force. I spoke with Steve Howard of the State Highway Department here in McGoffin County. Now, he was just taking probably about a 2-minute break from the grader that he was operating, and I spoke to him via telephone and just briefly, and this is the information that he passed along to me, as this was visibility and conditions. Now, this was just around 5 o'clock or so, and here you can see some of the business and movement up on the parkway. Most businesses were closed or closed early. The gas stations, mind you, were open. I know that I stopped at Speedway. They were out of kerosene. I may have gotten the last propane cylinder. I saw a couple of gas pumps that were out, and they're not going to be getting any supplies for the most part for a lot of that. The milkman had just been there. Picked up 2 gallon. Nevertheless, Advance Auto was staying open until about 5. Dairy Queen and Lee's were closed, and a lot of these stores are going to be closed again tomorrow. But back to the State Highway Department, they are working crews 16 hours a day. The state limits them to 16 hours, so they're working 2 full crews, 8 hours. One came out at 4 a.m., started or stayed on till 4 p.m. Another came on at 4 p.m. We'll work 12 hours. And then, of course, there'll be a small gap of just a few hours there in between until they come back out again with at least 7 trucks, 2 graders. One is a contract grader, and as much manpower and machinery as they're able to apply to the situation. Now, while you were taking a look at 114 there, or the Parkway, and I know it's just hard to see, these are some of the roads that they're not taking care of right now because they simply don't have the... It's just not possible. They are restricted to trying to keep up with the clearing, no salt being applied, but the clearing on those priority A roads for now, which is the Parkway, Route 7 to Salt Lick, 460 east and west, 114, Route 40. And here you see the Mountain Parkway. And they're not even able to keep up with those with all the equipment and manpower they have, because as soon as they get to one end, well, they turn around, and guess what? There's another inch or 2 behind them, literally. So after the snow quits tonight and wanes, they are hoping that they'll be able to start to give some attention to priority B roads maybe tomorrow. That is still yet to be known, but they do believe, my camera will come back into focus in just a moment, but they do believe after the snow subsides tonight and then they hit it real hard in the morning, then they'll start to give some priority to those priority B roads, which if you live on, you know, well, are still just covered in several inches of snow, about 10 for the most part. It's going to be an around-the-clock as much as possible situation and duty, because this snow is not going anywhere. It's not like snows, not that we've had one this big in the past 16 years that I've done this show, or even prior to that for a few years. But when we've had a significant snow, there's always been a warm-up around the corner, or some rain, or both, and it's not lasted very long. You're going to have this one on the ground, just as today, for probably the next week, until at least the weekend when things will start to wane a bit. Schools, well, let's just face it, they'll call them on a day-to-day basis, but classes are going to be out for all of this week for most all schools in the viewing area and for a majority of Kentucky. Meanwhile, local fire departments, the rescue squad, and others have not had to respond, fortunately, to all that many auto accidents, and maybe zero for the most part. No injuries, certainly, in that regards, but they have been busy around the clock since the snow started to fall, or shortly thereafter, for transport of emergencies, situations where individuals needed their medicine, transport or assistance with getting someone to the nursing home or a medical facility, something of that nature. And they're hoping that everyone will continue to stay off the road for the most part, and they'll be able to dedicate their time in that manner to those who most need it. If you have a friend or a neighbor, an elderly person who needs assistance, you need to call one of your fire departments, as was referred to earlier by Judge Executive Hardin, or any first responder or any government agency to try to get them help. Help is out there, and they're hoping to be able to keep that help away from having to respond to auto accidents and people in the ditch, for being on the roadways when really it's just not safe to be. This is going up Route 7 up to the high school, and you can just see it's pretty serious, and that was just before airtime. They're not applying any salt to the roads because they can't obviously get it down to the pavement, and then when we get down into sub-zero temperatures, that salt's not going to work. So road conditions are going to continue to be terrible for the next several days. The good thing out of all this is it's a light, fluffy, powdery snow, and it's not causing an issue with power lines. So given some isolated circumstances, we're hopeful that power lines will not be an issue. Now, there may be some electrical failures based on other situations or problems, but for the most part, sagging or overweighted power lines by heavy, wet snow is not going to be a problem this time around. And even on those roads where they have been scraped, graded, or cleared, if you get over to just a little bit, a tire width over into that heavy snow that's been piled up over the side a bit or not been graded, it just sucks you off the road and pulls you over. Traveling at more than 20 to 30 miles an hour on a good stretch of cleared road is something that's kind of difficult to do. One of the many reasons that they're hoping that everyone will stay inside and try to stay warm for the foreseeable future. More headlines, and most are weather-related, in just a few moments. First, though, a birthday wish. A happy 5th birthday to Isabella Patrick. Love Mom, Papa Keaton, Mommy, aunts, uncles, cousins. A happy belated birthday, it says, to Isabella Patrick, who's now 5 and a few days old. Very few announcements on our McGoffin Farm Bureau-sponsored community calendar, and in fact, while I say it a little bit in jest, I can pretty much sum it up like this. Closed until further notice. And like I said, in jest, but in all seriousness, businesses, I spoke to some which were going to try to open tomorrow. Many were not asking their employees to put themselves at risk. Of course, no schools, county services will be closed. It's hoped that most everyone was well aware of this, was bearing down on us, and had enough preparation to be able to get what you needed to get through. And most things will be closed tomorrow. We'll be back in action tomorrow night to some degree, of course. But it's just asked that everyone stay inside. If you don't have to be out, don't get out. I spoke with a member of the Sangersville Police Department earlier today, Chief Matthew Watson, who said they'd actually received a call from someone who said that he needed city officials to come and clear their driveway just in case they needed to get out. Enough said. With that said, here's how you do get announcements on the program. Well, of course, everything that I had scheduled for tomorrow has been canceled. There were a few events at the Extension office. Those have been canceled. But just everything is closed for tomorrow for the most part, with the exception of some of those businesses, which will try to open up again and give us services, gasoline, kerosene, propane, things of that nature. But you'll need to call and see and try to make arrangements before you get out tomorrow. That will be a wise decision. Now, the weather has also changed some services to be held for a few individuals. Example is the first announcement tonight in obituaries. 84-year-old Harris Banks of Sangersville, who passed away on Friday, has had services reset for his honor for tomorrow morning at 11. Burial will follow at the family cemetery at 4 Acre. The McGoffin County Funeral Home is in charge of arrangements. His services were to be held earlier today, but Mr. Banks will be laid to rest tomorrow morning beginning at 11 at the McGoffin County Funeral Home. And 97-year-old Jeff Harper of East Maple Street passed away on the 13th, survived by his wife, Mary Ellen Owens Harper, daughter Sandy Salyers, and Pam Hicks, and stepson Gary Williams. Visitation is this evening, I do know that services will be tomorrow at 1 o'clock from the McGoffin County Funeral Home, with burial to follow thereafter at the Harper Cemetery at Edna. Once again, services for Jeff Harper moved to tomorrow at 1 o'clock from the McGoffin County Funeral Home. And I've also learned of the passing tonight of 89-year-old Ella Isaac Ward of Lick Creek, who passed away on Sunday. She was married to Hassel Ward, who preceded her in death. She survived by sons Danny and Ronnie and daughters Shirley Johnson and Fanny Watson. Visitation is going to be after 5 o'clock tomorrow, and prior to services, they'll start Wednesday afternoon at 2, all of which from the McGoffin County Funeral Home, with burial to take place thereafter at the Cooper Cemetery at Lick Creek. Once again, services for 89-year-old Ella Isaac Ward, Wednesday at 2. To get high-speed internet on their state-of-the-art fiber optic network for all of your home and business solutions, or to watch TV without a contract on over 200 digital channels with superb quality, or stay connected with family and friends with 24/7 telephone service you can always depend on, contact Foothills Broadband today. Or just click on their link to the right to find out how they're working to provide the latest in communications at affordable prices with exceptional service at Foothills Broadband.
The following interview with Neil West of the McGoffin County High School Athletic Director, among other titles at the facility, covers a lot of topics. We'll begin with the end of the regular season for boys and girls high school basketball, which in lieu of the winter storm has pretty much been wiped off the schedule altogether. And of course that has a domino effect, possibly, or does it? We'll ask Mr. West in regards to the district tournament, which has now been set after a drawing held a day earlier on yesterday ahead of the inclement weather they were expecting. And then he'll touch briefly on some questions that I posed to him about an incident this past Friday night where the McGoffin County Lady Hornets and their coach left the floor of Breathitt County after what they said were some disturbing calls. It's going to have some consequences, as I understand, and still some uncertainties swirling the whole situation.
Yeah, you know, this is the last week of regular season. We had 2 games scheduled tonight. The boys was here tonight against Prestonburg. The girls was on the road down in Central. Tomorrow night was scheduled for McGoffin County girls and Powell County girls. Game Wednesday night, McGoffin County girls, Morgan County girls. Game Thursday night was senior night scheduled. Is McGoffin County boys against Morgan County boys, and that game will start. Senior night festivities were scheduled to start at 6, varsity game at 7, and Friday night you was looking at boys was on the road to Chevy Valley, and then next week the district tournament starts.
Do you have any aspirations of getting any of this week's games in?
Basically, you have to wait and look how much we get, and I figure today and tomorrow for sure is gone. You know, looking at Wednesday and Thursday, the temperature of the weather is going to be so low. Even getting kids on a bus is going to be a problem. You know, and roads, not only the main roads might be clear by Wednesday or Thursday, but the side roads, and you know, getting everything cleaned up is going to be a mess.
Any of these games this week have any bearing on the district tournament?
No, district tournament meeting was scheduled for today, and Tommy McKenzie called yesterday morning and got a hold of all the athletic directors and principals in the 57th district, and we went ahead and had our scheduled meeting yesterday at 4 o'clock. The reason we had to meet was we had a two-way tie for boys for first, and we had a four-way tie for first in girls. All four teams finished 3-3 head-to-head. This come into play, and it ended up being a draw. We drawed numbers to see who drawed. Sheldon Clark drawed first and drawed the number 1 seed. Paintsville drawed second and drawed the number 4 seed. So Paintsville and Sheldon Clark will play the first game on Monday night in girls. McGoffin County and Johnson Central will play the second game on Monday night in girls. In the boys, it was a coin toss, and Johnson Central won the coin toss. So Johnson Central will play McGoffin County boys at 6:30, and then Sheldon Clark will play Paintsville boys at 8:30 schedule. Doors will open in the district tournament on Monday and Tuesday at 4:30. Tip-off is scheduled at 6:30. And then there's no games on Wednesday night. Championship of Girls is on Thursday night at 7:30, and Championship of Boys is on Friday night at 7:30. Due to weather, if we do have weather that the teams cannot get to the district tournament, we're going to push it back one night, and we'll play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
So let's, last topic here is were you at Friday night's ball game? And it's my assumption that you were not. But what knowledge do you know before we talk about the logistics of penalties and fines and all that good stuff? What do you know about? What have you been told? What happened? What do you know about the events that transpired in Breathitt County?
At Breathitt County, what I know is during the ball game in the first quarter, one of our girls went up for a rebound, and a girl from Breathitt County supposedly come over our girl's back. At that time, Coach Castle was hollering at one of the referees to call the over the back. Another referee on the other side come across the floor and gave Coach Castle a technical foul. And Coach Castle told him, said, you just got to call over the back. At this time, he accessed another technical foul and threw Coach Castle out of the game. At this time, Coach Castle left the floor. When he left the floor, the team went with him. Been in contact with the Kentucky High School Association. They've never gave us a ruling yet on it. Right now, you're looking at Coach Castle for sure will be setting out 3 games. That is standard for any coach that's thrown out of any sport in Kentucky High School Association. Coaches are 3 games, players are 2. And the only thing I am waiting on is ruling from Mr. Tackett from Kentucky High School Association, and been trying to get a hold of him today with the weather and stuff. I don't think they're in their office, so I figure either tomorrow or Wednesday I'll be getting a ruling back from Kentucky High School Association.
Now, as I just pull up some video from a January game from the Lady Hornets matchup with, I believe it is Johnson Central, just to have some voiceover material, let me go on to describe what I've been able to find out. It was the Lady Hornets traveling to Breathitt County this past Friday night, and Coach, excuse me, I still refer to him as Coach West, but Mr. West, the AD director, couldn't speculate on what any of the fans, players, parents' reactions were or thoughts on the matter. I'm told that many of the players and parents were in full support of Coach Castle, and that is why the team left the floor behind their coach. I'm also told that a scorekeeper with Breathitt County, and maybe even someone else with the program, agreed and offered to corroborate Castle's accounts that there was really no foul. Now, we're also told unofficially through Castle that the referee in question had approached his assistant coach and informed him that there were no hard feelings based on a run-in between the referee in question and Coach Castle in another game, and there will be no issues that night, and may have made some sort of a gesture thereafter that indicated the contrary. Nevertheless, it's all still in question as far as to whether or not there may or may not be any reprimand for the referee in question. There is one copy of the video that I know that exists that was shot by the Breathitt County School System. I also have been told that that has been forwarded to the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, who was closed today, as was the Breathitt County School System. So my hopes of getting a copy I'm still uncertain of as of right now. If even a Montgomery County High School, if all the accounts of what the coach and his players and fans say of the refs' actions are accurate, which I have no reason to believe otherwise, refs largely have, well, they're at their own discretion and often face little reprimand. Coach Castle, however, is facing 3 to maybe 5 days or games suspended, which means since all the regular season games have been wiped off the schedule, that he will not be coaching in the district and possibly the majority of the regional tournament. And there's also the possibility of some fines levied against the school on behalf of the team leaving the floor down 9-0 in that Breathitt County game, regardless of whether or not they did so on behalf of the actions from that one referee or not. For now, that's my time, and that's what I've got on that story, except for one little update on your weather. And we saw those 10 inches earlier, and counting. Now, we're going to see a bit of a break in the action. Don't let it fool you. We'll see a bit of a break for maybe a better part of an hour or two. We're still about an hour away from that happening if you're catching the early show. But then we've got another big band of snow, and it's got some darker blue in it there. That could altogether give us another, I'm going to say another couple of inches is certainly possible throughout the overnight if you're watching the early show. 2 more inches, putting us close to 12 inches of snowfall here in the viewing area, specifically in the studio area. Some parts of the viewing area I would like to hear from if you've seen more than 12 inches of snow. The big problem now is we're going to have to unbury ourselves from all the snowfall, and then we're going to have to brace for the cold. We're talking about temperatures tonight right around 10 degrees. Tomorrow, daytime highs of 23. 10 degrees tomorrow night, and then Wednesday morning we're talking about 14 for the daytime high, -4 for the low, and 9 degrees for Thursday's high, and -6 for the low that night. That is dangerous cold on top of a whole lot of snow, and something we'll talk more about when I see you back here next time. For now, thank you for watching, and good night.